switching gears, Australia just launched the world's first social media ban for everyone under 16 years old, which includes TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. It's a big deal. I mean, who knew there was someone under 16 using Facebook? You know, it's...
All right, that little joke about the nation of Australia. It's the only country that's also a continent. Did you know that? It's the only country that's also a continent. Yeah. Antarctica is a continent all by itself, but there's not a country. So that doesn't count. But what have they done in Australia? They might be blazing a trail for the rest of the world to follow. What are they doing? Are they having an Iran-Egypt soccer game during Pride Month? Is that their plan? No, that's not it. It's something else. Something else altogether. What they're doing is they're kicking teens off of social media apps. It's the law. A global policy test begins. Sure. That's the headline at CNBC. CNBC, that's another cable channel that NBC owns. They pay Al Sharpton over there. Does he know anything about that? But this is it's a wild story. It really is. Australia is trying to enforce the first teen social media ban. Governments worldwide are watching. The governments worldwide are watching. Australia became the first country on planet Earth to enforce a nationwide under 16 social media ban as global regulators watch closely. You know, we talk about there are some schools in the United States where they banned phones, the smartphones and stuff at the desk and even at lunch, and from open of school, whatever, 8 a.m. to close of school, 3 p.m. or whatever it is. And there's some schools that have banned phones, and it's led to some positive results. It has led to some positive results. And even the students, after a while, after a month or 2 months, they say, you know what, this has been great. I'm actually talking to my classmates instead of sitting there and ignoring them and texting or, you know, looking at whatever they're looking at. I hesitate to guess. But there it is. And Australia, they're taking it one step further. Platforms, you know, Facebook and X and all that, platforms face tough age checks amid privacy fears, unreliable tech, and circumvention by teens. They want to circumvent. They want to get around it. Other governments from Europe to Asia are weighing similar moves, positioning Australia as a test case. And I got to say, I'm so happy that I grew up before smartphones were a part of everybody's everyday life, especially for teenagers and so on. I actually talk to people. And look at me now. Now I just talk and talk and talk. What if I grew up with those stupid phones, you know? Smartphones, stupid people. Would I speak the way that I speak today? Would I communicate with people the way that I communicate with people today? Australia on Wednesday, it's Wednesday. They're ahead of Wednesday here, so it was hours ago. Australia on Wednesday became the first country to formally bar users under the age of 16 from accessing major social media platforms. A move expected to be closely monitored by global tech companies and policymakers around the world. Canberra's ban, which came into effect from midnight local time, targets 10 major services, including Alphabet's YouTube, Meta's Instagram, ByteDance's TikTok, Reddit, Snapchat, and Elon Musk's X. You have to call it Elon Musk's X because they have liberals in the media at CNBC, and that's how that goes. They got to demonize, vilify him. The controversial rule requires these platforms to take reasonable steps to prevent underage access using age verification methods such as what do they have? Inference from online activity, facial estimation via selfies, uploaded IDs, or linked bank details. Yeah, there are privacy issues I can see. I don't think I had a lot of bank details when I was 15, though. And I think the way they're writing it, this sounds like 15 and under. I think it's actually 16 and under. But the way they're writing it at CNBC makes it sound like under 16, which would be 15 and under. And the lack of clarity in the writing is glaring. However, the impact of the policy could be even wider, as it will set a benchmark for other governments around the world considering teen social media bans, including Denmark, Norway, France, Spain, Malaysia, and New Zealand. Now, this is pretty interesting stuff. And we've got the Prime Minister of Australia was out there talking about it, of course. And it's, it's part of the British Empire and all that good stuff. But it's kind of a fun thing. And I do think kids be better off without being on social media. They're going to be on the internet 25 hours a day anyway. But the Australian Prime Minister is a man named Anthony Albanese. And he's talking about what they're doing because, they're Australia and they get to do what they want.
This is world leading. This is Australia
world leading.
Showing enough is enough. Make no mistake, this reform will change lives for Australian kids and allowing them to just have their childhood. For Australian parents, enabling them to have greater peace of mind.
I gotta say, I'm not a big fan of banning things, and I think most kids can handle most things. But at the same time, we've raised a generation or two in the United States and doubtless in Australia and beyond of young people that don't communicate well. That's generous understatement. That don't speak well, don't interact with other human beings well. They've lived in their little internet bubbles, their phone bubbles, and I'm not the hugest fan of my phone. I use my iPad a lot. I text a lot, as Michael can tell you, as I text him a lot and other people about news of the day and so on. And I text a lot on my iPad with a keyboard attached, right? But my phone is not my best buddy, not my best friend. I tell you, when I'm sitting at the anchor desk at Newsmax, and we're in commercial breaks and stuff, there are 5 people at the table. As soon as we go to a commercial break, 4 of them are immediately on their cell phones. And I sit there in silence for 4 minutes waiting to come back while 4 people around me are on their phones texting. And I just sit there and I don't grab my phone and start texting. I just look around. I feel like dad at the table or something. It's quite remarkable, isn't it? But in the United States, this has been discussed as well as a possible, banning in schools just for the school days. And it's very controversial because of Democrats. Democrat Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois, Dickie the Turban, as he's known by international intelligence agencies, Dickie the Turban. And he's like, oh, yeah, he wants 1 million abortions a year paid for at taxpayer expense. He wants us to provide abortions at, in B-pole countries all over the world, third world countries. He's for gangs being ushered into the United States from every B-pole country in the world to cause havoc and kill people. He's in favor of Venezuelan drug cartels who kill, the drugs kill tens of thousands of Americans every year. And here's Dick Durbin when being asked about banning social media, banning kids from social media.
I think protecting children is an avenue that should be pursued.
No, you don't.
I won't rule out some sort of limitation in sales or distribution or use of those devices. And I just tell you, parents and grandparents need a helping hand. This is getting out of hand.
This guy is so full of it. And then he's going to come out in favor of Venezuelan drug cartels trafficking drugs into the United States and not blowing them out of the water because Democrats, right? These are the guys that want jihadis to be on college campuses and chant from the river to the sea and they terrorize Jewish students. I shared the story yesterday from the New York Post about the poll. College students, Jewish college students, are terrified to be Jewish on college campuses. Dick Durbin doesn't have anything to say about any of this stuff, honestly. And 1 million abortions in the United States every year, and he applauds that. He calls that choice. And then somebody else pays for his lunch. Isn't he amazing? Senator John Cornyn is a Republican senator from Texas, and he was asked about banning kids under 16 from social media platforms?
I think we ought to look at what Australia is doing, for example, and requiring access to these social media platforms to not be available to anybody under the age of 16. I think that would be a helpful addition, and plus the various laws that we hopefully will pass soon to provide additional tools.
Provide additional tools, isn't that fun? The platforms like X and they have Facebook and TikTok and Kick, I think that's Outkick, and Twitch and YouTube and Reddit. Listen to this: platforms could face fines of up to $33 million. This is in Australia. The platforms, Twitter, X, and YouTube, could be fined $33 million for letting teens or kids on the platforms, right? Got to have age verification and account deactivation and all of these things. It's pretty wild, I've got to say. Whack-a-doodle-doo. And John Cornyn, but this is a topic that is just starting to be discussed in the United States of America. Let's take a phone call, and then I've got to get to our mailbag questions right here, and not at the bottom of the hour, but at 35 after. I'll get to the mailbag questions. Right now, let's go to the telephones, Michael. Hey, wait a minute, that's another Australian, not the Prime Minister. It's Jason calling from Kensington, Maryland. Jason, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, g'day, Chris. Yeah, I heard someone say something about Australia.
Yeah, it's true, yeah. Leading the charge.
Yeah, there's a ton of us over here on this side of the coast. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a good thing. I'm just not sure how they're going to police it, because I'm sort of getting feedback from over there that I'm not sure how they're going to police it. But, I mean, Australia had no problem sort of policing us during COVID. They were pretty well, communist during that. So
yeah.
I'm just not sure how it's going to go with these kids, because they're pretty crafty when it comes to getting around stuff like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's true.
Yeah, I mean, the old days when we communicated, we basically would say, "I'll see you at the local surf break," and that's how we communicated. We just sort of actually talked to each other.
Imagine that. Yeah, wow. Yeah, communicate the old-fashioned way. We'd talk to people. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I just I see it in kids around here. Like, you talk to them, it's sort of like you're speaking a foreign language. It's like, unless I'm on the social media or texting them, they don't really want to hear from you. So, but yeah, I'm hoping it works out good, and it's a good thing. But I'm just yet to know how they're going to police it. I'm just not sure. It's kind of up in the air with that.
What's with this guy Anthony Albanese? Is he a communist? Your prime minister in Australia?
Yes, he is. He's definitely a globalist. He's probably, I would say, he's probably Joe Biden on steroids. But I mean, he definitely hasn't got the dimension that Joe Biden had. But he definitely has the communist leanings as far as when COVID was on, and also now with all the regulations and all of the different things like windmills and climate change and all that. He's definitely all on board with that. And, definitely not the best one we've had.
Killing whales. He hates whales. The windmills, they just kill whales everywhere you go. They're worse than Japan. No. They kill more whales than Japan.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're basically clearing a lot of land out there, which is basically pristine wildlife land, and killing a lot of the wildlife for these windmills. And it's like, well, there goes, I mean, so much for your environmental policies.
Kill the koalas. Kill a koala.
Exactly.
Kill a koala for the environment, and killing whales for the environment too. Yeah, for global warming. Yeah, the left, they're really screwy.
Yeah,
crazy.
But anyway, so we'll see what happens. So Australia's the first one. We'll see what happens. But I mean, I hope it does kind of get our kids back into socialising normally again. But we'll see.
That'd be nice. Well, and Jason, thank you very much, buddy. And the great Jason, ladies and gentlemen, and just wonderful. And, we'll see what happens. Again, we've seen some results in U.S. schools where they ban phones during the day, not 24 hours a day, as Australia is attempting, but just during school hours. And in the end, a lot of the kids, at least after a couple of months, have said, you know what, this is nicer. This is preferable. It's better. Everybody talks to each other. And I could have predicted that. I think most people could have predicted that. Remarkable. Thanks, Jason. He's great. He's an artist as well. The all-new third-generation Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier is finally here, and it builds on the incredible success of the preceding two generations. And those earned thousands of five-star reviews on Al Gore's amazing internet. Peace be upon him. This new Thunderstorm uses two technologies that studies have shown help to kill up to 99.9% of bacteria and viruses floating in the air that your family breathes. It also removes dust and pet dander and smoke and all kinds of nastiness. Don't want to be breathing that stuff. The Thunderstorm will help get rid of any stinky smell, too. That's guaranteed. Odors from kitty litter boxes and trash cans and cigarette smoke and liberals and musty basements. No match for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. Any smell's going to disappear in a matter of seconds. And right now, you can save $200 American on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection, or you can give one as a gift and a hint. Put one in your basement, your teenager's room, your family room, your kitchen, any place you like to breathe clean, fresh air. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code CHRIS3, C-H-R-I-S, and the number 3 to save $200 on 3 Thunderstorms. Christmas is just around the corner. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is CHRIS3. Yes, sir. Seen a red door, and I want to paint it black. Isn't that great? We've got mailbag questions coming up because today is Mailbag Day here, Hump Day in Bill Clinton's house. I have the Mailbag Day questions in my hand, and we'll get to them after the next commercial break in just a few minutes. In the meantime, let's go to the phones and to Leon calling from the great state of Illinois. Leon, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, thanks for taking my call. My idea is the Democrats won't get behind this. It'll undercut their idea that children should be able to vote at the age of 16.
Well, that is one of the things they're pushing, isn't it, the Democrats? And they're busy brainwashing the youth with the constant bombardment of left-wing propaganda and social media, the phones and desktops and laptops, and so very, very important to the Democrats' long-term strategy, isn't it, Leon?
Yeah, how would they ever get their message out if they didn't have the kids reading it on Facebook and TikTok?
Yeah, that's right, with no editorial control by any adults, just the left, the Democrat Party bombarding kids. The younger, the better, with all of their propaganda. Yeah, you're right. The Democrats will sabotage it here in the United States, Mara, because they need the... And it reminds me of the movie, what was it, Wild in the Streets, 14 or Fight. They wanted the voting age to be 14, and then they elected a drug-addled rock star and put all the old people on LSD. It's a fun movie. CNN is very upset today because they're pro-drug cartels. And their headline is, at least 5 people, you know, the drug boats out of Venezuela that the Democrats support because they want more death in America. And they're in favor of the drug cartels and Tren de Aragua and Nicolas Maduro. And they have Trump derangement syndrome. But blowing up the drug boats, and the Democrats are pro-drug boats. That means CNN is pro-drug boats. And the headline there today is, at least 5 people survived initial U.S. strikes on alleged drug boats. They got to put in the alleged news organization. What happened next varied. It varied, you see. And 3 separate U.S. strikes on alleged drug boats have initially left survivors. Each time they've been treated differently. They think there should be a consistency. They should all be killed. Actually, they think they should all run for Congress in California as Democrats. But CNN is all over this story. And they say, as the U.S. military has undertaken a campaign of attacks against alleged drug boats in the Caribbean Sea and eastern Pacific Ocean, at least 5 people have survived initial strikes, ending up in the water after explosions killed fellow crew members and disabled their ships. It's supposed to sink their ships, not supposed to say, hey, we got to go get the ship. It's loaded with millions and millions of dollars in drugs, and then we can bring it to California and kill everybody there. But never mind that. But what happened next to the survivors? They like the word survivors like they're, they had breast cancer or something. Varied greatly. 2 were detained by the U.S. Navy only to be returned to their home countries. 1 was left to float in the ocean. I think that's good, and is presumed dead. And 2 more have been at the center of an intense controversy, scrutiny in recent weeks, following reporting that the U.S. military conducted a second strike, killing them as they clung to their flipped and damaged boat on September 2nd. The contrast in treatment has happened while policy on how the military will handle survivors remains steady, according to defense officials. So they're, oh no, what do we do? 1 was left to die. They're international drug cartel gangsters. They are responsible for the deaths of tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of Americans and people from elsewhere, too. And people from elsewhere actually matter as well. But at CNN, they're like, oh, no, what can we do to stand up for the drug traffickers? It's like Tony Montana program. They love drug traffickers. And because today is Wednesday, it is, of course, what day is it? Mailbag Day. It's Mailbag Day. And, interestingly, one of the mailbag questions, at least, has to do with the poor drug traffickers that found themselves in the crosshairs of the terrible Trump administration, which is anti-international drug cartels. Right? But let me go. So with that, let me go to the mailbag questions, because it's Mailbag Day. And the Democrats, I played Congressman, balloons and island flip over. And he's saying that American military people and civilians at the Department of Defense should be put on trial for war crimes and for murder.
It's really just murder on the high seas.
Hank Johnson. That's Hank Johnson. And we are the great Satan because we're blowing up drug cartel boats loaded with drugs headed for the United States. And Hank Johnson says that makes us the great Satan, just like Iran says we are. Because Hank Johnson and the Democrats might as well be Iran. They might as well be ISIS. They might as well be hanging gay people from cranes and chanting Allahu Akbar.
The great Satan. That's what we have become in this country.
That's right. Hank Johnson's got us figured out. And this is because we're blowing up drug boats. He's joined the Islamic Revolution in Tehran. Not just rhetorically, but spiritually as well. All right, now let me get to the mailbag, because the Democrats are anti-American military, pro-Tren de Aragua, pro-international drug cartels, pro-Tony Montana, pro-Kilmore Abrego Garcia, pro-MS-13. They're pro-murder of mothers of 5 in Maryland on a jogging trail. They're pro-murder of nursing students in Georgia on campuses by illegal aliens. The Democrats advocate, look, their policies created these murders, these crimes, these drug overdoses, and now they're really coming out in favor of everything that's bad. Isn't that amazing? All right, now let me get to enough of me. Let's get to me. Let's get to the mailbag questions. And let me go to this one first from Ray. The Allies bombed factories, buildings, building aircraft, and factories building bombs in Berlin during 1944. They didn't just drop one bomb. See, he's going to the drug boats in the Gulf of Mexico and the Gulf of America also. They didn't drop just one bomb. They didn't just double tap. They unleashed hell from the skies over and over and over. Should Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, the Democrat leaders in the House and the Senate, investigate your father for war crimes? Well, see, that's a really interesting question, a good fun question. My father was a Navy fighter pilot in World War II, and I played audio here. I might play it once a year of my father being interviewed in the ready room aboard his aircraft carrier, and he's just back from a bombing mission where he dropped bombs, steel bombs filled with explosives on Germans just because they're Germans. Democrats are okay with that, Ray, because Germans are white. And that makes it okay with the Democrat Party. They'd have to put John F. Kennedy on trial, too. You know, he killed Japanese people just for being Japanese. Now, the Democrats put Japanese Americans and Americans of Japanese descent in concentration camps all over the western United States during World War II just for being Japanese, because nobody's more racist than every single Democrat. So it's like that. But, yeah, the question is, Jeffries, Schumer investigate, World War II veterans. I was like, oh, you dropped bombs on the bad guys, and you killed them. And when the bomb blew up, a couple survived, and the ship hadn't been sunk, and it could be a pirate ship if it doesn't fly the flag of a nation. But never mind that. But, Ray, yeah, I think that the Democrats should investigate World War II veterans for war crimes. And you know what this reminded me of, Ray, is a guy that I'm aware of, a field marshal, I guess, in World War II. Bomber Harris. He became known as Bomber Harris because he destroyed everything in Germany and just blew up everything and killed everybody. Tens of thousands of refugees in Dresden. And Bomber Harris said, kill them all, and just flattened Dresden, just set it on fire, bombed it with firebombs until there's nothing left. And it's true, today's Democrats are closer to the Socialist Workers' Party of Adolf Hitler than they are to John F. Kennedy, even. They're really something. And they would put the British from the UK, Arthur Travers Harris, and called Bomber Harris. And he bombed everybody and everything and just burned cities to the ground in Germany because they had to pay the price at long last. And, yeah, Jeffries and Schumer should investigate World War II veterans while they're still here to be investigated. No kidding. Now, next question. Thank you, Ray. Anti-Communist Jack, I like his name, Anti-Communist Jack, says, would you rather be stuck in an elevator, that's the old would you rather be stuck in an elevator with question, with Tim Walz, the R word, that's Tim the retard, that's President Trump called him, with Tim Walz, the Democrat governor of Minnesota, who's not on the side of America, or Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer. Well, I got to think about this for a minute. Tim Walz or Jeffrey Dahmer. See, I think Jeffrey Dahmer is the cannibal. He was a Democrat, and he kidnapped little boys and tortured them and ate them and cooked them and ate their flesh, right? And fortunately, he was murdered in prison in 1994. Jeffrey Dahmer was. He was convicted of a great many very creepy murders and dismemberments and cannibalism. And he's a Democrat because. So the answer to your question, I think, is since Jeffrey Dahmer is dead, it'd have to be like Jeffrey Dahmer jerky. And it'd have to be his flesh dried and peppered, maybe salted, because his stinking corpse is probably well beyond stinking corpse now. He'd be dead. Tim Walz, I could ride an elevator with Tim Walz. I'd just call him the R word at every floor. R word on 3, R word on 4, R word, and I'd have to use the actual R word, the retard word, And it'd be fun to be on an elevator with Tim Walz. Jeffrey Dahmer, not as much fun, I got to say. But you could call him the R word over and over again. And also, Jeffrey Dahmer reminded me of John Wayne Gacy, who murdered, 33 young boys and raped them and murdered them and left their bodies packed in the crawl space of his house in Chicago. And John Wayne Gacy was a big Democrat Party activist. He was a big Democrat Party fundraiser, organizer, Democrat, and a little boy kidnapping, raping, murdering psychopath, John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne had nothing to do with him, just for the record. The actual John Wayne. Isn't that great? I would probably a tough one on Jeffrey Dahmer, anti-communist Jack. I'll go with Tim Walz, and I just call him a retard all the way up and all the way down, and it'll be fun. I hope his daughter, what's her name? Hope. Her name is Hope. I hope she's on the elevator, too. Yes, sir. Fun question, Jack. Now, Rock Chick, that's a cool name. I want to meet Rock Chick. Rock Chick asks, hi, Chris, have you ever met President Trump? If you could give him one piece of advice, what would it be? Love your show. Rock Chick. Rock Chick, I love your name. I have met President Trump. I interviewed President Trump in his first term in office, his first 4 years. And we went down to the White House. Michael Piercy and I went down there and interviewed President Trump in the old executive office building, now the Eisenhower executive office building. And a really great room, beautiful building, wonderful building. Interviewed President Trump. He was great. I told the story in exquisite detail at the time, how he sized me up, examining everything from my teeth to the stitching in my suit to my tie to my watch, and it was quite amazing. And we had a great conversation. He was wonderful. He was very casual and relaxed, and he was great. And he was with Michael as well, and we had a great time. And we made a bunch of news because I asked him questions, and the questions I asked were, well, as always, that, hey, this might make news. What'll he say to this? And by the time we left the interview, quotes from our interview were already being posted on other networks and CNN. Michael and I went to the Trump Hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue, and we had beers and we're ching to interviewing the president at the White House and stuff, and making all kinds of news. And on the TVs up above the bar at the Trump Hotel, there were our quotes of Trump from our interview, from the show and all that. And and that's actually the only time I've ever met him, truth be told. Haven't met him this time around again yet, but we should do something about that. And we haven't even been invited to the Christmas party, not even at the vice president's residence, and or much less at the White House. I'm not much of a suck-up. I've never been a good suck-up, but good stuff. And if you had one piece of advice to give him, what would it be? That's a tough one, I got to say, Rock Chick, because he does everything in his unique Trump-esque way, right? But it always works for him. It pretty much always works for him. And I might think if it were me, I'd probably dial it down a little, here and there. I wouldn't pick every fight, but he picks. And Michael Piercy and I were talking about your question earlier, and he picks every fight, and they're the right fights. He picks the right fights. And sometimes it seems like, why is he picking this fight? And then 2 weeks later, like, oh, look what happened. The Democrats self-immolated again over this. I might just tell him to focus. But when he's up at 3 o'clock in the morning tweeting, he's focused. He's focused on everything. I don't think my advice could. I would like to have his ear, truthfully, but it would be on specific things, not in the macro necessarily, except focus. But he succeeds at everything he's ever done. So what can you tell him? And thank you for that. A good question. Now let's go to Kevin. Kevin, this is our last question for the mailbag today, I believe. Kevin asks, does Michael Piercy, or Jasmine, who you talk to when you call in, ever join you for politics and a pint or on one of your sea cruises? Do you ever, drink with either socially? Whenever you ask either of them questions on the air, you never let them speak. Is there a reason for that? Union card or pay reason? These are great questions. They really are. It's a series of questions from Kevin. But I've got to say, Michael Piercy came along on our sea cruise.
It was the year before last.
The year before.
British Isles.
And we started in Amsterdam, and we did the British Isles and the Isle of Man and Northern Ireland and all kind. Michael and his bride came along on our sea cruise, and it was the only time that he was able to do that. I don't have total control over that. Jasmine has never come along on our sea cruises, but Jasmine comes to the Free Speech Forum.
Yeah, if you've ever been to the Free Speech Forum, Jasmine gets the lines moving at the meet and greets. She takes the pictures.
She's in charge of everything.
It moves when Jasmine's there.
She now, I mean, and the truth is, I wish that Jasmine were full-time producer on our show, but she has multiple jobs. So she's here some days on phones, being our producer on phones and all that. And I've taken, Michael goes to all the politics in a pint, and Jasmine have you gone to politics in a pint? Been to two of them maybe, and goes to the Free Speech Forum at the Birchmere and all that. And I love having them along. I'd love to have both of them come on every sea cruise, certainly, but I'm not in charge of that part, so I don't get a big win on that. Do I ever drink with them socially? I've been bringing Piercy out for drinks forever and ever. Usually I lose them to the pot store wherever we go. It's
right next door.
I just said it's true. It's right next door. But I take them out, we had a thing for a while where like every Friday we'd go out, and then I started working at Newsmax, and we bring Kevin and Randy, and if Jasmine wants to come along, she's invited to everything. She's usually off at heavy metal things going on. She's out in the world doing fun stuff all the time. We're too boring for her, but she's having a great life, great family, and all that. Do you ever drink with them socially? And ask. Oh, and why when Michael used to jump in every now and then on the radio with the microphone. He just did a couple of minutes ago right here. And there was a union issue initially, and apparently I'm union. I'm a SAG-AFTRA person, and I had to be as soon as I started here in the radio, and I still am, and it's great. It's great organization, but it's not a pay thing. It's not. I don't think there's a union issue, at least anymore. And I'm happy to let and Jasmine is in a different room. She's under glass. She's like pheasant under glass, and she's doing mime behind the glass right now, trying to push her way through the giant glass window. But she's in a side studio. She can squawk in my ear, and I can squawk to her with a button, but it doesn't go out over the air, I don't think. I'd have to talk to the engineers. I'd be happy to have everybody on the air the whole time. I like everybody. I even talked to Mike the Lib. I don't dislike him. I feel sorry for him. Bless his heart. CBS News has announced a new anchor of the CBS Evening News. I remember a time when that would be a big deal. Now there's a guy named Tony Dokupil who will be taking over as the anchor of the CBS Evening News. He's not Walter Cronkite, and he's not Dan Rather, and that could be a good thing. He's an Emmy Award-winning journalist. He takes over the CBS Evening News as the anchor on Monday, January 5th. Monday, January 5th. I'm going to start collecting crazy points for tomorrow's 3-hour radio broadcast. Thankfully, I've got lots of Democrats out there doing my work for me.